The moment I died felt like slipping into a deep, peaceful slumber. I had always imagined that death would be this overwhelming, terrifying event, but it wasn't at all. In fact, it was the opposite. It felt almost like floating, as if I was being carried by a force far greater than myself. I had suffered a severe stroke that left my body cold and unresponsive, but in that moment, I was unaware of the pain. I simply felt a calmness, a serenity that took over everything I had once known. I wasn't scared. I wasn't in pain. All I knew was that I was drifting into something greater. I felt the pull, something powerful, drawing me toward it. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself standing in a place unlike any I had ever seen before. It wasn't a place of darkness or emptiness, nor was it the light-filled visions of heaven I had once imagined. Instead, I found myself in a vast, wide-open space, surrounded by a warm, golden glow. There were no walls, no limitations, just an overwhelming feeling of peace, like I was completely safe and known. And then, before me, he appeared. It was Jesus. But he wasn't how I had seen him in paintings or read about in the scriptures. He wasn't distant or unapproachable. He was right there with me. His presence was both comforting and awe-inspiring, like being in the presence of pure love, but also something infinitely larger and more powerful than I could fully comprehend. He looked at me with eyes that could see into the very depths of my soul. There was no judgment in his gaze, only understanding, love, and compassion. In that moment, I felt as though he could read every thought, every fear, every hurt I had ever carried. "Welcome, my child," he said. His voice was gentle but filled with a power that reached deep within me. It wasn't just a voice I heard, it was something I felt, something that resonated through my entire being. "Am I dead?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. But there was a part of me that needed to hear him confirm it. "Yes," Jesus replied, his tone filled with love and comfort. "But this is not the end. This is the beginning of something more." He smiled at me, and I felt my heart swell with peace. But he quickly motioned for me to follow him. As I walked beside him, I could sense that there was more to see, something important, something that I needed to understand. Suddenly, the atmosphere around us began to shift. The golden light seemed to grow brighter, and the world before me seemed to open up. The scenery changed, and I found myself witnessing what could only be described as a vision of what was coming, a vision of the world right before Jesus' return. I saw Earth in chaos. The world was on the brink of destruction. The skies were darkened by storms, and the earth seemed to tremble beneath the weight of humanity's mistakes. Nations were divided, and there was a sense of unrest in the air. I could feel the fear, the anxiety, and the desperation that plagued the hearts of many. I saw people, families, individuals, caught in a web of confusion and despair. Many were seeking answers, but no one seemed to know where to turn. It was as if the entire world was on the edge of a precipice, teetering dangerously between salvation and destruction. The darkness that loomed over the world wasn't just a physical darkness, it was spiritual. People had turned away from God, and their hearts were hardened. They were lost, blind to the truth, and confused about the path they should take. I felt the weight of the situation press down on me, and I looked at Jesus, seeking understanding. "Is this what is to come?" I asked, my voice filled with dread. He looked at me with sorrow in his eyes, but his response was filled with hope. "This is the world as it stands now, but it is not too late. I have not abandoned my people." As he spoke, I began to see glimpses of what would happen before his return. The world would experience great turmoil, natural disasters, wars, and societal collapse. But there would also be moments of grace. In the midst of the chaos, there would be a call for repentance, a chance for people to turn back to God and prepare for his coming. I saw people reaching out to one another in the midst of the darkness. There were moments when love and compassion would triumph over fear and hatred. I saw small groups of people gathering in prayer, calling out to God for mercy. They weren't many, but they were powerful. Their faith shone brightly in the dark world around them, and it was in these moments that I could see the hope of salvation. "The world will suffer," Jesus said, "but those who choose me will find peace. The darkness will not overcome them." He continued walking, and I followed, seeing more of the vision unfold before me. I saw signs in the heavens like never before. The moon turned red and the stars seemed to fall from the sky. There were flashes of light, and the very atmosphere seemed to crackle with energy. I felt it. This was the beginning of the end, but also the beginning of something new. The people who had been faithful, those who had remained true to God despite the trials and tribulations of the world, were lifted up. I saw them standing before Jesus, their faces radiant with joy. They were not afraid. They were not lost. They were ready. And then, as I looked closer, I saw something even more profound. I saw Jesus return. It was not a quiet or subtle moment. It was majestic, overwhelming, and filled with glory. The sky itself seemed to tear open as he descended, his presence filling the entire universe. Angels surrounded him, and the sound of their voices was like a heavenly chorus, proclaiming his return. It was then that I understood. The return of Jesus would not be a quiet, peaceful event. It would shake the heavens and the earth. There would be no mistaking it. Those who had prepared for his return would be gathered up, and those who had turned away would be left in the darkness. The final separation would come, and only those who were ready, who had truly opened their hearts to God, would be saved. The vision began to fade, and I found myself standing once again beside Jesus. The peacefulness I had felt earlier was now replaced by a sense of urgency. "You must tell them," he said, his voice filled with intensity. "Tell them that the time is near. Tell them to prepare. It is not too late, but the time is running out." I nodded, understanding the gravity of the message. The vision was fading, but the urgency of his words remained in my heart. And then, I woke up. I was back in my body, in the hospital room where I had died. The world felt different, like I had seen something that changed everything. I knew now that Jesus' return was near. The signs were already beginning, and the world was on the brink of something monumental. But there was hope. For those who were ready, for those who turned to him, salvation was within reach. I don't know when he will return, but I know this. We are living in the last days, and the call to prepare has never been more urgent. The time is now.